Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Hey, Jim. Good to see you. Just want to give it a few more moments. We know a 9 a.m. start time is pretty early, but we want to make sure that everyone is able to join. We had a lot of attendees register. So just giving it a few more moments before we jump right into our presentation today. To start off, just want to remind everyone that this session will be recorded and post on PhilaWorks' site under the procurement page under the RFP for the Good Jobs Challenge. If everyone could please in the chat, we're going to be using the chat a lot today as we have a lot of information to cover. Just type in your name and the name of your organization. In the chat, also, we'll be using and monitoring that for any questions that you have during the presentation, but also we'll have a Q&A section at the end where people can unmute or type in the chat any questions that you have regarding the information that is shared. Thanks, Emily. Welcome. Again, as people are coming in, if you could just write your name, and the name of your organization in the chat, that would be wonderful. Just trying to get an idea of who all is in attendance today. One other reminder, please remain muted until we get to our Q&A section where you can unmute, ask questions. But we like to minimize any interference with the information that we like to share. Again, this session is being recorded. Thank you to all those typing in the chat. Good to see some familiar faces. Just going to check. David, how are we looking with people coming in?
Good. I think we had 30 some register, and right now we have 29 participants in the meeting.
All right. Give it about 30 more seconds and then we'll hop right in. Again, just some quick reminders. This session will be recorded and posted on the PhilaWorks' site under the procurement page for the Good Jobs Challenge RFP. Please just type your name, and the name of your organization in the chat. You can also use the chat for questions. The team will be monitoring that. All right. Team, I think we're good to begin. All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ashley Phillips. I'm the manager of workforce partnerships here at Philadelphia Works. I'm excited to share this information and exciting opportunity through procurement for the Good Jobs Challenge. During today's bidders conference, we'll do an overview of the RFP, what Good Jobs Challenge is, how you can apply, what needs to be included in that proposal submission, and what classifies as a good proposal and a good job. Just wanted to go through that with you all so that you can be best prepared to submit proposals for this procurement. You can go to the next slide. So today, again, my name is Ashley Phillips. I'm going to be joined by Sabria Fountain, the program representative for Good Jobs Challenge, on explaining some of the RFP and the Good Jobs Challenge itself. Just some opening remarks. Again, this session will be recorded and posted on the PhilaWorks' site. Thank you for entering your name and orgs in the chat. You can also use the chat for questions. And we ask that everyone remain muted until the Q&A section towards the end of the presentation today. We can go to the next slide. Providing an overview of the RFP, Philadelphia Works is soliciting proposals for regional partners and providers for existing and upcoming programming in infrastructure and energy. Those two sectors will help support the visibility and outcomes for the Good Jobs Challenge throughout the southeastern Pennsylvania region. Just so that you're aware, that includes Bucks, Berks, Montgomery, Chester, Delaware, and Philadelphia counties. Eligible training providers must meet the minimal following standards. They must work within the two industries listed above, and that they must begin active programming starting as early as October 1st of 2025 through September 30th of 2026. One of the large components of this opportunity is incorporating seamless transitions for students from training through employment. So you'll see in the proposal itself and the application, there is a request for an employer support letters and how they have seen success from your programs and opportunities. That will be a key component and how these proposals are scored. Next slide, please. So you all may be asking, what is the Good Jobs Challenge? Issued by the Economic Development Administration under the U.S. Department of Commerce, Philadelphia Works, along with our partners and backbone organizations, received a little over $22 million in order to link and connect 3,000 job seekers with employment opportunities and the growth industry sectors identified as growing in the southeastern PA region. Those include healthcare and life sciences. They're really grouped together. Then we have energy and infrastructure. This grant will be until September of 2026. And this initiative is really helping to create pathways for economic growth and recovery, and also tackle the issues for those who may not traditionally be in these industry sectors and how we create a pipeline for them through training and employment opportunities. Next slide, please. So again, these three targeted growth industries are healthcare and life sciences, energy, and infrastructure. We have three backbone organizations around the region that lead the work in this area. So in healthcare and life sciences, we have the Skills Initiative, formerly known as the West Philadelphia Skills Initiative, working in healthcare and life sciences. Then we have Philadelphia Energy Authority heading up the energy sector. And then finally, the Philadelphia Area Labor Management Committee, referred to as PALM, advocating for the inclusion of participants in different labor agreements and construction and infrastructure happening around the region. Next slide, please. And now I'm going to pass it to Sabria, who'll talk about what qualifies a good job.
Thanks, Ashley. Good morning, everyone. So as far as Ashley kind of gave the brief overview, you're probably wondering what exactly is or what constitutes as a good job. The Economic Development Administration identifies a good job as that meets one of the following criteria. Either it is a training or employment opportunities that meet at least or have at least $15 an hour wage, leads to a job that exceeds the local prevailing wage for an industry in the region, and includes basic benefits. And this can include, but is not limited to, paid leave, health insurance, retirement, etc. And then lastly, be able to fulfill a local labor supply gap or opportunities. And we can go on to the next slide here. So for training programs, just to give a brief overview, any applicant must have the following already included within the proposed training. So they must incorporate reliable and streamlined pathways to employment for participants, lead to an industry recognized credential. So any proposals that culminate in only one basic certification or certificates of completion will not be considered for review. So we just wanted to make sure that we highlighted that in this presentation as well. Prepare learners for success in one or more of the following recovery occupation industries, which would be the infrastructure and energy sectors. That was covered briefly by Ashley in the beginning. And then lastly, programs that are only seeking to use the award for adding program slots or other programmatic enhancements must detail how they plan to utilize that funding clearly and concisely in their application there as well.
Just wanted to add something here just about the industry recognized credentials and what that means for one certification to be the result of the training. We're really looking for stackable credentials, something that would have the participant be competitive in the field. So typically, one credential attainment, we've not seen that be successful in connecting the participants in those entry level roles. You need like one or two or three. So when we talk about these credentialing, we're really looking for a holistic approach to preparing the students for actively being involved in the labor force.
And additional insights will be able to be provided in the FAQ if that was also included on the procurement website on PhilaWorks as well.
Next
I
slide,
can
please.
pass it over to Ashley for basic eligibility.
Thanks, Sabria. So when we talk about who is eligible, what type of organizations, those include for-profit, nonprofit, educational institutions, government entities, employers, unions, and those just as training providers. So everyone is encouraged to submit a proposal from these, but not exclusively these organizational types. Also, applicants must be in good financial standing. That is one of the requirements for the application process, that you submit those things. And also, organizations are encouraged to collaborate and submit a joint application if applicable. We have seen great success in community-based organizations teaming up with training providers who have long-standing relationships with employers around the region to successfully matriculate students through training through to employment. So it is highly encouraged that you collaborate as we look to create an ecosystem through good jobs through in and around the southeastern Pennsylvania region. Next slide, please. So we wanted to make a distinction here about some points that can define a strong applicant. It is incorporating reliable and streamlined pathways to employment for the students and graduates, have strong existing employer partnerships and commitments to interview or hire. We know that sometimes employers may not do that, but we're looking for connections to the curriculum, to the program structure, how employers are involved in that, ensuring that the participants are trained adequately in the skills required for them to be successful in these industry roles. Also, there are data requirements and collections that we need to submit to the EDA. We're going to talk a little bit about that and what that looks like. And organizations must have the capacity to collect this information. And we'll talk about the time frame of that as well. Strong organizational experience, infrastructure, and staffing. Although we do support new programs, we're looking for existing programs who already have these structures established, so that programming can begin immediately, as we stated, starting as soon as October 1st. looking for competency-based training and high-quality course instruction that includes in-person and technical application, classroom. So apprenticeships are highly encouraged to apply as well because that is already blended, the learning content for that. Also looking for how we can help the adult learners in this way. So how are you incorporating financial, math, and reading literacy to help bridge the gap between those who historically have not been able to identify these as credible opportunities or identify pathways to these careers? And then also a well-defined proactive recruitment strategy and selection process. Like, how are you vetting the persons that are coming into your program? And then also, how are you supporting them through the program, utilizing community-based organizations and other supports, supportive services, wraparound supports that help the participant lower those barriers to success and to employment? And we can go to the next slide here. So now I'd like to pass it to our colleague from our finance department to talk about the budget information and payment structure. I'd like to introduce Janet, and she'll go into more of these details.
Thank you, Ashley. Good morning, everyone. Alrighty. If you can go to the next slide, please. So I know a lot of people don't like to talk about budgets, but I'll try to make it as painless as possible. This one is it's just trying to get us an idea of what the expenses will be and stuff. But if, wind up getting the RFP and stuff, there will be a more detailed budget, and we can definitely have meetings about that. But we'll first start with the budget and contractual information. So all applicants must complete the budget sheet that is attached in the RFP. The payment structure for all the awarded funds is cost reimbursement. Administrative costs, whether direct or indirect, cannot exceed 10% of the overall program expense. I'll go into a little bit more detail of that on the next couple of slides. And providers may submit an approved indirect cost rate or NACRA to Philadelphia Works for review. Please note that the approval of all NACRA documents are up to the discretion of Philadelphia Works. Next slide, please. Funding cannot be directly allocated towards stipends or incentives per the EDA guidelines. Following the proposal determination, a more detailed budget will be developed through a negotiated conversation. Providers will be required to adhere to determine monthly reporting for all costs. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is the administration part of the budget. So where it says organization's name, you would put your organization on there. Project title will be whatever, if it's energy, infrastructure. For admin expenses, for those that have an indirect cost, all they will have to do is fill out the portion where it says indirect costs, and they will put an amount there. For people that don't have that, they will have to submit admin direct expenses, and that includes salaries of the admin, fringe benefits, any admin operating expenses. So when they're doing telephone, if you have anything with rent or lease, you would need to provide proof of the lease. We would need copies of that. Any maintenance, utilities, insurance, staff, travel, audit, payroll. So all this, I'm quite sure, is kind of familiar to everyone. Just please note that you can only have one or the other, whether it be direct expenses or if you have a indirect cost rate, but you can't put both. The next slide, please. And this is the same thing for program staffing. So you will list your staff, fringe benefits, and that's basically when it says fringe benefits, just your benefit percentages for, for FICA, workman's comp, unemployment, health, liability, etc. And again, the expenses are the same. If you're going to have some subcontractors or consultants for this proposal, you would need to submit the consultant agreements to us as well. Now, just to give you kind of like an example, because on the earlier slide, it says that you can't have more than 10% of admin costs pending on your programmatic expenses. So let's say, for instance, you put your staff, your benefits, your operating expenses, and it all totals up to 100,000. So your admin can only be, if you have direct charges, can only be 10% of that 100,000, which would be 10,000 should be your admin expenses, and then your program expenses equal to 100,000. Now, pending if you have an indirect, as far as what percentage it is, Philadelphia will look at that and see what the percentage, if they can agree to it, or if it can be lower or higher, that's to the discretion of Philadelphia Works. Then whatever your percentage on your NACRA, then that would be what you would put on the admin indirect. And just know that if you do have an indirect rate and stuff, we will also need that submitted as well with the proposal. So I think that is it for me. I guess we're doing questions later. So thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Janet, for giving us an overview of that. Now I'd like to pass it off to Scott from our data to talk about data management and performance and what each organizational capacity needs to be in order to be successful through the Good Jobs Challenge.
Hi, everybody. I'm Scott with the data team here at PhilaWorks. We can jump straight into it. If we go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So, like Ashley said at the top, the main thing we need is, for you to have the capacity to submit your program and participant data to us. And we ask for data on a monthly basis. It's all metrics that are provided to us by the EDA. And we've created a process to hopefully simplify and make it easy and capture the data that proves that your program is running really, really well and has great outcomes. Let's see here. So I'll mention that we have broken out the data we collect from you into 5 categories. There's the program level data, the participant level data, the training data, employment data, and then the 6-month survey, which means you have to continue to track your program participants 6 months after your training program has ended. And I will note that the data we are collecting is fairly low barrier compared to other federal grants if you've worked in grants before. For example, we don't need a social security number. We just need basic participant demographic info. They need to live in the 5-county area, which Ashley also mentioned at the top. And we need you to have participant files handy so that when we come around and monitor and check in, everything that you've reported to us is accurate and true. This is pretty common in federal grants. It's nothing that you haven't noticed before. Ashley, do you know the 5 counties off the top of your head?
Yep. So including
6 counties,
Philadelphia
Kim. Sorry.
will be
Thank
6.
you.
We'll be 6 together. So yes, Bucks, Berks, Delaware, Chester, Philadelphia, and Montgomery counties.
I don't know where I get 5 from. Must be forgetting Philadelphia.
It's the 5 others.
Yeah, the 5 other
Don't
counties.
have them thinking
in
that we don't
Philadelphia.
think about the other counties, Scott. We do.
No, for us, it's we want everyone in the entire region to access good jobs, not just people in Philadelphia, of course. You bet. So I think we can jump to the next slide. I think there's another one. There is not another one. Then that's it for me. It's fairly simple. I run through this quick, but we have a very hands-on data team, and so any help that you need, any support that you require, we provide it to you as we go through the training program grant process. That's it. Thank you all.
Thanks, Scott. Something else just to reiterate about the data. Again, it's on a monthly cadence. There will be 6-month data. So organizations will need the capacity to track participants beyond the completion of the training program. So really want to emphasize that part, and is why we are encouraging a joint application to build that capacity up with other organizations who prioritize that work. Really are looking again to build out the ecosystem in a way that is sustainable beyond the life of this grant, and also consistent with creating these opportunities and identifying these pathways in these two industries where it's not well defined as healthcare, right? If you want to be a doctor, there's a clear path to what that looks like. If you want to be a crane operator, what does that look like? What kind of skills do you need? If you want to be an HVAC technician working on heat pumps, what type of training specifically is required for that opportunity? So just really considering what's all entailed in that, and how we can best support the participants. So lastly, we're going to just go into the proposal submission and evaluation process. So I'm going to hand it off to Sabria to talk about the proposed timeline. Just want to emphasize that some of these dates are tentative, but we'll talk about that on the next slide here.
Thank you, Ashley. So we can move on to this slide here. So as Ashley briefly mentioned, this is just a tentative RFP timeline for the time being. So the RFP itself did release on June 9th of about 2 weeks ago now. So with that being said, it is open for 45 days, which would allow more than enough time for everyone to be able to either identify and or apply with other partners there as well. Today we have the bidders conference, which will be the morning session, which is currently occurring at 9 a.m. And then we have an afternoon or evening session. We wanted to ensure that we are a little bit more flexible for individuals that are working throughout the day, given that it is a lovely Tuesday morning. We wanted to ensure that there was a session for both individuals to be able to attend. So we have a second session that is occurring this evening at 4:30. Moving forward, prior to or ahead of today, we had the FAQ sheet that was posted onto the PhilaWorks procurement page. So if you go to philaworks.org under the procurement tab on our website, you'll be able to identify the FAQ page or the FAQ sheet, which is in the same section as the RFP itself. It is updated on a weekly cadence as far as when we receive questions from individuals, and then also concluding today, we will ensure that any questions that we do receive via chat or from anyone that is in attendance will also be added to that FAQ sheet to be able to be referred back to at a later point. July 21st by 5 p.m. is the deadline for all proposals. So we want to ensure that this is highlighted just because we do understand that there are upcoming holidays that will kind of shift any type of application timelines for anyone else. So we want to ensure that everyone knows that the 21st of July is the deadline for all proposals. And then we are looking to award determinations to be made, or looking for award determinations to be made by September 12th. Again, as mentioned, this is a tentative timeline, so things may shift, but it is looking to be awarded by the 12th or notified by the 12th of September. Next
Again,
slide.
just want to
Oh, sorry, go
reiterate
ahead,
before
Ashley.
we move over, Sabria, just reiterate the deadline for all proposals. And also the award determinations. Like I said, this date may be flexible with the holidays that we have coming up, and then depending on how competitive the proposals are from this submission, we want to ensure that we adhere to this timeline as closely as possible. And PhilaWorks will be, and our procurement team will be in contact with organizations to keep you updated on the process once proposals have been submitted.
Thank you for that, Ashley.
We can go to the next slide here, please. So the proposal submissions, again, Monday, July 21st by 5 p.m. And via email. We ask that all emails have the subject line, a Good Jobs Challenge, Regional Infrastructure and Energy Partners, and then the name of your organization. And this is really key as we have a lot of incoming mail. We don't want any of the proposals to not be counted or not be found. We want to ensure that these titles are included in the subject line so that we can move forward. Also, it should be one PDF document comprising of all the components and attachments, as well as an unlocked Excel version of the programmatic budget sheet. It is really important that it is one PDF. As you can imagine, trying to share a document with over 100 pages can be a great feat. So we're asking that they all be under one PDF document. There are page limits included in the PDF, and we ask you to adhere to those. And also, applicants must submit the proposal with who submit proposals for multiple training programs. Each program must have a separate application submitted. So, for example, if someone has a welding and a solar installer program, both of those programs would need to have an individual proposal submitted, including with the individual budget for each program that are aligned. Training providers are encouraged to apply for multiple programs. We've seen a lot of that. So thank you. We got an example of the subject line in the chat for you all as well. We'll include that in the FAQ sheet, please, team, too. So just so we have an example of that. And then we can go to the next slide. And thank you for the questions. I know we're almost at our Q&A. We're almost there. I see the questions in the chat. So we'll be getting to those and going through them shortly. So additional supporting documents, such as a copy of the program's training curriculum or syllabus, are welcome. It's really good to see the details behind what's going to be offered to the students. And it can also speak to a lot of the funding amounts and why programs have been successful and how they also align with the industry standards and expectations for persons in these roles. Please do not include your organization strategy plan. We are welcome to how implementation plans, but it's not required. And again, all the requested and required attachments must be completed thoroughly and attached to your proposal submission. The team will be doing a checklist. There's a checklist included in the proposal documents to help assist to ensure that everything has been included as well. We'll be confirming that upon receipt also. And the next slide. I think this is our Q&As. So if you have any questions, here's the email account, so procurement@philaworks.org. Please do not reach out to any of the team members individually. We are streamlining our process and having all inquiries go through, and also the applications for these proposals into at procurement@philaworks.org. Again, as Sabria stated, the Q&A will be posted publicly on the Procurement and Opportunities page on PhilaWorks' site following this call and on a weekly cadence up through the end of the submission period. And the next slide here. Now we're ready for our Q&A. So just as the question, the FAQ sheet has not yet been posted, but the questions answered today will be included in the forthcoming FAQ sheet that will be posted onto the site. So Jenny, I see, thank you for compiling those questions. We have 6 questions so far.
Do you want me to take you through the questions, Ashley and Sabria, and you can address them?
Yes, please.
Okay, so the goal was 3,000 people trained and placed into good jobs. Has this been increased with the extension of a 4th year?
So no, this no cost period of performance grant extension did not include any additional money or any changes to our performance goals. This is just an opportunity to further expand the work that we've been able to do over the last year and to help us reach those performance goals. So nothing has changed as we move forward through this last year of the grant period.
How
And
many
then,
individuals? Oh, sorry,
no,
go
you're good.
ahead.
Go ahead. And then for the second part of that question of how many have been trained to date and placed to date, as of right now, we have gone through just over 1,000 participants who have gone through training, which is a great number for us, but we are obviously looking to continuously improve and move towards growing that number there, which is where you all would come in. And then we also are moving forward with continuous growth there too.
Thanks, Sabria.
Of course.
Can,
Ashley.
We just reached over 1,000. We're at like 1,002.
Yeah.
So we're really excited for that.
can we pre-bill for 6 months of data collection after the grant ends?
And providers are encouraged to incorporate all funding required to be successful through this program in their budget. And that'll be during the programming period. So we've talked a lot about, we haven't talked about, we didn't get into too much details around the budget specifications for subcontractors and what that can look like, but that can be discussed through budget negotiations once the awards have been set. So if we would be going on a case by case, typically we don't pre-bill for those types of things, but like I said, we will operate with a case by case scenario and working with our financial contract managers and account liaisons to ensure that we communicate effectively with the providers.
Can we train adults who are looking to change careers and earn a good job?
Yes, this opportunity is for all citizens 18 and over, citizens of the 6 county area, 18 and older. So that does include career transitioners. It must result in, so was that question from Jem? I want to kind of like ask a clarifying question. Can't remember who asked that. I think
Yes,
it was.
it was me,
Yeah, and
Jim
that's
Locker.
perfectly all right. When we talk about like adult learners, are you talking about those who are just transitioning? Are you talking about like incumbent worker training or someone who's starting a whole new career or upskilling?
So I'm saying a 50-year-old who wants to no longer be in hospitality and wants to become an energy auditor.
Yes. Yes, that is definitely an opportunity for this RFP.
Are there placement goals in the RFP?
There are goals tied to program completion and participants being connected to employment opportunities. So that will be, again, case by case, depending on program and cohort sizes, but it will be a percentage of for completion rates and how many of those who have completed that have been connected to employment opportunities.
What will be the range of award amounts?
So this proposal, the total amount being awarded is $2 million. So we don't have any range for what organizations can request. Our greatest ask is that you clearly outline why the request merits the amount that you're requesting. So if you're requesting $1 million for a program, there should be great detail in how many participants will be served, what the program entails, what type of certifications will be provided, how will the wraparound supports and supportive services be provided to those participants, what employer partners do you already have lined up. So there are a lot of things that must be included in order to justify any budget amounts. So there's no specific range.
If we propose to place in people into energy jobs, including HVAC, heat pump installers, and energy auditors, and geothermal technicians, would that need to be 3 different proposals or one with individual line items for each training and placement goal?
So for that question, if they are 3 different trainings, then yes, there needs to be 3 different proposals. If you were having one training that kind of gave the participants or students exposure to all of these different types of roles and they could go into any of them, then one proposal would be needed. But what I'm saying, like, you would need an energy auditor's proposal. You would need the HVAC and heat pump installer proposal. They would need to be 2 separate entities.
B says, who is eligible to apply? Fillowworks solicits proposals from entities who are currently operating training programs for adult career seekers 18 years of age or older in the public workforce system. The wording is a little confusing. Does this mean that an entity must already be operating training programs in the public system in Philadelphia now, or could it be a trainer that is new to the local system?
So yes, this can be trainers that are new to the local system. For example, if you have been operating in Bucks County and you're now looking to expand your program into Philadelphia County, then yes, you can apply for this opportunity. So we are looking for established programs. We've seen that be the most successful, but new programs are encouraged to apply as well. It would just be very important to detail the employer connections, how this program will be successful, and align that with the budget allocation. So I hope that answer your question, Jeff.
One slide said training and employment opportunities must have at least $15 per hour wage. Are these wages to be paid during training or only after trainees have been placed with employers?
So these can be either employer placements or paid work experience. It must be at least $15 an hour job opportunity for all of these placements. So it
And
includes both of those.
also something that I want to add to that as well. I would just to highlight, there are no direct payments that are allowed to be made to participants while utilizing GJC funding, just because it is federal funding. So we want to ensure that it is included into your application of leverage funding, external funding, whatever it is, that would be able to supplement those wages that are there as well.
So I just wanted to reiterate that. Thanks, Sabria. Incentives. So paid work experience can be included for an externship. A lot of these opportunities move in that direction, especially in infrastructure. But any direct payments to participants is disallowable for Good Jobs Challenge funding. So no incentives or stipends can be included in these budgets under GJC.
Is the participant required to be employed in the same industry they have trained in?
They can I ask a clarifying question, Miss Smith? Is it? I'm not sure if it's one.
Yes.
Delina? Yes, I can hear you. Can I ask a clarifying question there?
Yes. So
If you when you hello, welcome. So you're talking about someone being employed in the same industry they're trained in. So for example, if someone goes into welder is always like really easy. If someone goes into a welding training and then realizes, hey, I want to go and be a solar installer instead, would that count towards performance? Does that answer your question?
not quite, because it's kind of the same industry. It's all trades. So let's say, for instance, someone is training in solar and then they decide they have found a career in culinary. And that's where they decided they wanted to be after training, but it meets the criteria of the grant. could we still count that? That's
It
not
must be
ideal, but it
Yeah,
happens.
it must be industry aligned. So in the example that
Thank
you
you.
gave, culinary would not align with the infrastructure or energy industry. So it needs to
Understood.
align with those industries for good jobs. Yes,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Those are all the questions we have so far.
Thanks, Jenny. Just want to give a few more moments for anyone else that may have any questions. Um, Definitely come off mute if you have a question or type in the chat if that's easier. Just as a reminder, the final deadline for the proposal submission is Monday, July 21st by 5 p.m. I'm sending to the procurement@philaworks.org email. David also put in the chat, just if anyone has come in late, please just list your name and your organization in the chat. This session will be uploaded to the procurement and resource procurement opportunities and resource page on the PhilaWorks site.
Hey Ashley, this is Tim Steyer. I have a
Hey,
question.
Tim.
How you doing? Good to see you again. What about opportunities to partner with other organizations? A lot of folks I know here, but how would we get in touch with them?
So we encourage to leverage those opportunities that you have and those connections. Are you looking
To partner.
to partner?
Yep.
Tim, we can talk about that. I'm not sure that this procurement might be the best way, but there's other ways to partner around good jobs, and we can talk about
Okay.
that as well.
All right. I'll reach out.
Okay, definitely. Thank you, Tim. Any other questions
That's why I put
about
my
any?
email contact in there, Tim.
Yeah.
I have
We can-
yours all over the place. Thanks.
All right. We can go to the next slide. Want to thank everyone for taking the time out to meet and discuss the GJC infrastructure and energy RFP. There are ample ways to connect with Philadelphia Works on Facebook, on X now. It's not Twitter anymore. LinkedIn and YouTube. We have a lot of videos there. There's our emails and phone numbers and contacting us. For all those who don't know, we're located in Suburban Station at 16th and JFK in Center City, Philadelphia as well. Then just this last slide, again, just want to thank everyone for coming out and sharing in this opportunity. We are excited to offer another way for partners to be involved in what's happening in the Southeastern PA region in these growth industry sectors and encourage partnerships moving forward.